Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 887, and today's date is February 6, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I get started, I have two announcements. The first one, I just want to thank everyone that's been supporting the X22 Report website, the X22 Report YouTube channel, the X22 Report Spotlight. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And for those people that have been sending me articles and information, thank you very much. It really does help putting all the pieces together. I really do appreciate it. My second announcement is on Sunday, I'll be uploading an interview with Paul Craig Roberts. We discussed the economy. We discussed the upcoming war. And if you're on the X22 Report email alert system, you'll get an email from me. If you're on the YouTube channel and you subscribe to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, you can come right over to YouTube and you just type in X22 Report Spotlight, or you can come over to the x22report.com site. Just scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, you'll see the video, and you can go to the newssentinel.com site, and you can do the same thing. Just scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, it's looking like the central bankers, the U.S. government, is now pushing the idea that we need to go cashless. And we discussed this many times before. But what we're seeing right now from the banks is they are definitely making this push. And it looks like they're trying to track who has cash and who is using cash. Because coming from JPMorgan Chase, we see they changed some of their policies about cash. And starting March 2016, when anyone is going to deposit cash or make cash payment for a loan or credit card, you have to follow some of their rules. And we're going to go through them. One of them is to make a cash deposit or payments. You can only do those if you are the consumer of the account. That lists your name and that you have authorization to do this, and it's on file with Chase. You need to be ready to show your ID if you're using cash. And one of the things they say is, please talk to us about alternative options, including ATMs, transfers of your currency that's already in the bank. Don't take cash out. Don't put cash in. We want you to completely step away from cash. And we see that the banks are going to be making this push because we realize what is coming down the pike here. And this is why they've been preparing and getting ready the bail-in documents. We see the economy is slowly and surely slipping into this devastating collapse, and it is going to get worse. And Bill Holter is out there, and he's saying one of the ways to see this coming, one of the signs, is when the COMEX fails to deliver on gold. And he's saying that the situation can only last or continue as long as vaults have gold and the owners are willing to fill the deficit between supply and demand. The global financial system, it's going to completely seize up and close for trading once gold delivery fails. And he's saying this will only take about 48 hours after the failure. And after the failure, the ability to procure metals, sell stocks or bonds, or do anything else financial, at that point, it will not be an option. He's saying that the pace of the collapse has shifted gears, as evidenced by trade, earnings, and even central banks. Japan's new policy of negative interest rates is showing that there is stress and everything is starting to break down right now. And we can see it from everything that we talked about, where we're looking at the Baltic Dry Index, GDP, unemployment, retail stores closing, going bankrupt. We see corporations with mass layoffs. We see the unemployment numbers, of course, which are completely manipulated. It's all starting to break down, and we're seeing major, major fluctuations in the market. Now on to Zika. We realize that the governments, the World Health Organization, and of course the CDC, they're coming up with their computer model to let us know how many people are going to be infected. But we know at this point that things aren't making sense, because we've seen the study of how many cases are reported with microcephaly, and how many people actually have it, and then how many people actually had the Zika virus at the same time. And all of this doesn't make sense, because out of the 4,000 or so people that are reported to have microcephaly, there was only 267 cases confirmed, and out of the 267, only 6 people had the Zika virus. So there's no correlation on any of this. And right now they're doing something very odd. They're telling women to hold off getting pregnant for at least 2 years, without doing any conclusive scientific study or any type of evidence to back any of this up. And all of a sudden, we see announcements from international pharmaceutical giants saying that they're already creating or have a vaccine for Zika. One Indian drug manufacturer has already announced it has developed a Zika vaccine. Other manufacturers are saying they're very close. So they already knew that this was going to problem. They already had this in development, and they were all ready to push this out. And it's just very odd how this all of a sudden came out at the exact moment when they're going to try to push vaccines. We see that Facebook right now is now removing speech that presumably almost everybody might decide is racist, along with speech that only someone at Facebook decides is racist. What does this mean? It means we are starting to see what is called controlled or permitted speech. There's going to be a body of people who will then decide if it's racist or not racist, and they will decide what is free speech and what is controlled speech. This is exactly how it begins. And then they push it a little bit further, then a little bit further. And we see that German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Mark Zuckerberg, they were at a UN Development Summit in New York. They sat down. There was an open microphone. And we see Merkel was asking Zuckerberg, what could be done to stop anti-immigration postings being written on Facebook? And he kind of answered, we're already working on that. We're going to stop that from happening. Now, just a few weeks ago, Facebook was forced to back down when caught permitting anti-Israel postings, but censoring equivalent anti-Palestinian postings. Because what happens here is that those people who think that, yes, we're permitting free speech, they're really controlling and permitting the speech they want. Remember, everyone comes from a different background, different religion, different political views, and certain groups have different views than other groups. So which group is right? And this is why the Founding Fathers said, no, this is all free speech. If you don't want to listen to it, don't listen to it. But you can't say, oh, we like this speech instead of that speech, because it's not free then. It's controlled. It's permitted. And everyone has a completely different background. The group of people that they're putting together to view which speech is good or bad has a completely different political, religious type of background than other people. And this is why it's so important that everyone have the right to talk freely about any group at any time. Now, if you don't want to listen to it, don't listen to it. Just like on the TV. If you don't want to listen to that station, you turn to a different station. If you don't want to watch a movie or show, you don't do it. You send your message that way. But we see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to stop people from speaking freely. And they do this very slowly. It's almost like taxing. When they said, oh, we're only going to tax the rich, then we're only going to tax the kind of rich, then we're going to tax only the middle class, and they brought it all the way down to the poor. They start at the upper level when people go, yes, we have to stop racist, we have to stop hate speech, and then they slowly take away more and more and more. And this is how they get people into it. This is how they get their agenda pushed forward. Twitter right now, they've shut down more than 125 terrorism-related accounts. How did they do this? Well, they have a team of people who look at it and say, yeah, They said something about Islam or something else, and we're just going to take it down. Now, do we really know that this is what it was all about? This is what the Twitter feed was all about? No, we don't. And this is kind of scary too, because anyone out there mentioning anything, or anyone that has an opposing or different view of what's going on, they can say, oh, something, hate, racist, terror, let's just take it down. And this is how it begins, and this is what we're seeing right now. So after a 12-year legal battle, we see the U.S. Department of Defense finally released 198 photos. Now remember, they didn't do this out of their own free will and good for the people. This was a 12-year legal battle to have 198 photos on torture that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's still 1,800 photos that they will not release. And I can't even imagine what these photos must show. Now remember, Obama said, he was going to release all the photos, and he went back on his word. They said they were going to release the photos, then they were trying to stop them from being released, and here we have 198 photos which were finally released. We know that North Korea is going to be launching a missile, and the U.S. is saying it's going to be launching a missile by Monday. And very interestingly, I have this on the x22report.com site, is they have a satellite photograph, and it's amazing when they want to show something, how clear, how 3D, and how colorful it is when they want to point out certain things. And if North Korea was developing a ballistic missile system that was going to carry a nuclear warhead, they just wouldn't do it right out of the open. I mean, they would have it underground, they would have it hidden, they wouldn't have a launch tower. And you can see this is to launch a rocket into space to put up a communication satellite. But it's amazing how the U.S. can come up with a perfectly clear satellite picture compared to the Ukraine when they were trying to show Russia invading, and it was blurred, black and white, and you couldn't make anything because it was so bad that it didn't show anything. Now, Turkey is trying to shut their borders. They do not want the refugees coming in from Syria as Russia continually bombs. But the EU is out there, and they're saying that, no, Turkey has to fulfill its international obligation to keep the borders open. And they're saying that the Geneva Convention is still valid, which states you have to take in the refugees. But we see what's happening right now. Turkey is building up a huge amount of military troops on the border, military assets. Jay Johnson is in Turkey helping them secure the borders. And the question we have to ask right now is, why are they securing the borders? Why is Jay Johnson there? Why are they thinking about erecting a wall? Why are they monitoring the borders? Because when Turkey attacks with the coalition forces, you know what happens. People flee. You know what happens. They need to keep certain groups, factions out of their country. And we can see this is exactly what they're doing. We're getting confirmation right now that Saudi Arabia has mercenaries, at least 150,000 mercenaries, ready to go into Syria. These are made up of Sudanese, Egyptian, Jordanian forces, which include Moroccan, troops from Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and they will deploy the forces into Syria through the Turkish borders. Most of them are mercenaries. They've been training them. Remember all of these training centers that they erected in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar? Well, they're continually training paid mercenaries, and they're going to be using these mercenaries to invade Syria. And they're just waiting for the go-ahead from the U.S. The U.S. now is setting up their air base in Syria without the permission of the Syrian government. They're not even supposed to be there. Actually, this is an act of war. They went into a country. They commandeered an air base. They're extending the air base from 700 meters to 1,300 meters so they can land C-130 transport planes, and doing this without the permission of the government. And we can see all of this is in preparation for a major, major offensive, which most likely will kick off World War III. But the question we have to ask is, they just can't go in there and invade. What are they going to do to convince the world they need to go in there with the troops? They're going to need an event. Could happen here in the United States. Could happen in Europe. It could happen in the Middle East. But we're going to have to watch to see. And we're going to have to make sure we understand what's going on, so we can report that, no, this is another false flag. I mean, they tried many times before. They're just going to do it again. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.